Hello, my name is Rory. I'm one of the Blairvadach instructors who works at Pinkston Basin. If you're watching this video, it's likely that you're coming down to do one of our paddle sports sessions. So before you came down, we thought we'd give you some info on what you guys will be wearing and what you need to bring down. Okay, so if you're coming down here to a paddle sports session, it's likely that you're going to be doing a kayaking session. With that kayaking session, what you're going to end up wearing is you're going to be ending up wearing something like this, a wetsuit. This one is a wee bit small for me, but we have a whole range of sizes. This is designed to be really quite tight, but what it does is it keeps you nice and warm if you happen to get wet. Okay. We might also give you something that looks like this, and if the weather is quite windy, we might give you this. This is called a cagoule, and this will help you keep a little bit drier and a little bit warmer if it's wet and windy. Not necessarily give you this, but if it's cold, we probably will. Other thing we're going to give you is we're going to giving you a buoyancy aid. This is something that'll help you keep afloat if you happen to end up in the water. Now, those are the things we're going to be giving you for doing a paddle sports session. But there's some things that you will need to bring along yourself. First thing you're going to need is stuff to wear underneath the wetsuit. Okay. Best thing to wear underneath the wetsuit is going to be something like swimming shorts, t-shirt, or a bathing costume, or if you don't have a swimming costume, just underwear and a t-shirt is fine. Okay, so you're going to need to bring if you're not bringing down a swimming costume and t-shirt, you're going to need to make sure you bring a spare pair of underwear and t-shirts so you can wear those underneath the wetsuit. So I'm going to pack those in my bag. Another really important thing to bring down is an old pair of shoes. Okay. Reason why we want to bring down an old pair of shoes is because to keep our feet safe, the ground out here is quite rough, there's lots of stones, etc. To keep our feet safe, the best thing you can do is wear an old pair of shoes. Okay. Now these don't have to be the prettiest shoes, they don't have to be the right size shoes, they can be a little bit tight, a little bit big, but if there's something you don't mind getting dirty, getting wet and stuff like that, an old pair of shoes is great. With that old pair of shoes, something I'd recommend is bringing a spare pair of socks, because I'd recommend wearing socks in the old pair of shoes in the water, so when you get out you're going to have no dry socks. So bringing a spare pair of socks is going to be a fantastic idea. If you have something like water shoes or something like that, that's great too, but you don't have to go out and bike them. An old pair of shoes is probably the best thing. Sometimes we get people coming down with wellies for water sports sessions. They're not the best, because what happens usually if the wellies are a little bit loose and you do happen to go for a swim, the wellies tend to fall off, and the wellies don't float like trainers do. Wellies will just go sink and go and you'll never see your wellies again. So we don't recommend wearing wellies in kayaks. Okay. Now, after you're done with your session, you're going to go in and you're going to get changed in the change rooms. A good idea of what to have is, if you're all wet, what will I need to do? I'll need to dry myself. So I'm going to need to pack something like a towel. So I'm going to pack a towel in my bag. Okay. Now, I was a little bit careless in my kayaking session. I ended up falling in. I went for a swim. So now all the clothes I was wearing and my socks and shoes are wet. Okay. So what am I going to do? Am I going to put them straight back in my bag? That'll get all my bag wet and I've got still some books in there. It's going to be a disaster. So really good idea to bring down would be bring down a wee plastic bag. That means after the session, when you're done, if you got any wet gear like your shoes and your wet socks and your wet towel, you can stuff that all into the one bag, and that'll stop all the rest of your stuff from getting wet. If you're coming down here for a full day, it's also a good idea to bring down something to eat and water. Occasionally, it's sunny here. We do live in Scotland, so I'm only saying occasionally. But if it is sunny and the weather forecast is sunny, it's also a good idea to bring down some sun cream. So that way, because when you're on the water, there's actually loads more sun because the sun reflects off the water. So it's really important that if it is a sunny day, you want to bring some water. I also tend to wear a sun hat, which I have lost. I've lost my sun hat. It's somewhere out there. It is. I also tend to wear a sun hat. So if you are fair-skinned like me, wearing a sun hat or having a sun hat is great in the water. It doesn't have to be a big bright one. It could be just a baseball cap or something like that, but that's really excellent for wearing on the water. Something else you might also need to bring is if you have an inhaler or anything like that, or need any medication, that you make sure to bring that. But if you are bringing down any medication, it's really important that your teachers know as well. So that's everything you should need if you're coming down for one of our paddle sport sessions. However, if you're coming down for our John Muir Award courses or any other course where we're going to be doing stuff on the land, there's some other stuff that we would recommend you bring along if you have it. Now, we will be able to give you out some waterproofs, jacket, trousers. So we'll have that to give out to you if you need it. We'll also be able to give you wellies if you need it for doing stuff on the land. Again, these are only for doing stuff on the land. They're not for doing on the water, so you still need a pair of shoes if you're coming down to do a paddle sport session and for the John Muir Award session. But if you don't have those, we can give you a pair of wellies, waterproof trousers, and jacket. Okay, so if you have them, you can bring them down, but we can also give them to you. However, tends to be quite a bit colder on the land sessions. Okay, and we do the John Muir Award course, and we tend to do more canoeing as it gets into the winter, and for those we'll be wearing the waterproofs. Underneath the waterproofs, it's a good idea to have lots of layers. Okay, and occasionally people also fall in wearing just waterproof. So we might be canoeing or we might be doing stuff near the water, and people have wee accidents. They fall into the water just wearing the waterproofs, and that means everything they're wearing getting soaking wet. So if you're doing one of our John Muir Award courses, I would bring not just the t-shirt and shorts and socks and underwear and stuff we were talking about earlier for the paddle sports. I would bring actually a full change of clothes. So I would bring another spare jumper, I would bring a spare pair of trousers, okay? And that way, if you do happen to get completely wet, you have something to get changed into. So during the winter and when it gets cold, one thing I'd recommend is having plenty of extra layers. So in addition to the spare clothes you have in your bag, you'd also already be wearing lots of layers. So if I was going out during the winter, I might be wearing one, maybe even 2 or 3 t-shirts depending on how cold it is. I could be wearing a jumper, I could be wearing a wee little jacket or hoodie, and then I'd be wearing another waterproof jacket over it. Okay, so that means I have lots of layers to put on if it's cold. If it's cold as well, if I'm wearing wellies, well, they're great for splashing around in puddles and stuff like that. They're not very warm. Okay, so what I would recommend is if you're going to be coming down, that you have nice big thick socks to wear. And if it's really, really cold, not just thick socks, I'd have multiple pairs of socks. So during the winter, I tend to be wearing maybe 2 or 3 pairs of socks. No jokes, your feet can get really cold in the winter in wellies. So wearing 2 or 3 pairs of socks. If you're using our wellies, it doesn't matter how many pairs of socks you fit on, you will still find wellies that'll fit you. Okay, so wearing lots of socks is really good in the winter. In the winter as well, if you have it, it's a really good idea to bring down hats and gloves. Okay, so in the winter, extra socks for the wellies, and then hats and gloves to wear to keep warm on the land session. Have some spare hats and some spare gloves. If you don't have it, it's fine, but if you have your own, bring them down. So, thank you for watching. We look forward to you coming down. Here's a quick reminder of the stuff that you need to bring for both the paddle sports and the John Muir Award.